Another $74 million of your tax money was spent today by Justin Trudeau on illegal border crossers. Today, the Minister of Immigration announced that the federal government would be giving Quebec $74 million to pay for the social services and other costs associated with the illegal border crossing crisis. So today's announcement was nothing about ensuring planned, orderly migration. Essentially, it was throwing more money at the issue and actually, I think, making it worse. And here's why. The Liberals have been throwing hundreds of millions of dollars to do things like build 10 cities at the Canadian border, all of the money that they put at Olympic Stadium. They are doing everything to accommodate people that are doing this illegally, but they're doing nothing to encourage people to enter the country legally. This is ridiculous, and it's frankly it's beyond the pale. Today, I asked the Minister of Immigration about this, and I'm going to play the clip in a second, but I want you to really listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. Notice that the response to this issue, when I ask about how are you going to stop this, it's about how much of your money he's spending. You'll love the second question that I ask, I'm sure. I've seen many of you make this point. But it's really telling. Oh, by the way, he also, just wait for it, he also says he's got the situation under control. You're going to love that. But it's just really telling that what they're saying is we are going to continue to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at this issue, but we have no plan to stop the flow. Watch this.
Irresponsible, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister's #Welcome to Canada tweet caused tens of thousands of illegal border crossers to flood into Canada from the United States of America and claim asylum. We also know that there's no end in sight. Border agents are expecting upwards of 400 illegal border crossers per day this summer. The Prime Minister has failed to manage the border. Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians if he has any plan to stop the flow of illegal border crossers?
Honourable Minister of Immigration and Refugees.
We are fully in control over this issue. We have a task force, an intergovernmental task force on irregular migration. We had our 9th meeting last night with different provincial representatives. We have made the necessary investments in speeding up work permits for asylum seekers so they don't we minimize the impacts on provincial social services. What is irresponsible is cutting funding for CBSA and pretend that you care about the border. What is irresponsible is cutting funding for the IRB and care about refugee processing. What is irresponsible is having toxic relationships with provinces. We will...
The Honourable Member for Calgary Rose Hill.
At illegal border crossers. Over $200 million just to process their paperwork. Millions of dollars to construct 10 cities. Millions of dollars to turn Olympic Stadium into a refugee camp. And all this has done is made the problem worse. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister had the audacity to tell a veteran who served our country that he was asking for more than we could give. Why is this the Prime Minister's priority instead of stopping the flow of illegal border crossers?
Opposite is on record as having called on us to make investments to deal with the issue of irregular migration. We have listened, and what have we done? We've invested
Sorry, these shouts in unison really are very much distraction when we're trying to have debate and exchange of questions. So we'll go back to the Honourable Minister of Immigration and Refugees.
Mr. Speaker, the party opposite was calling on us for months to make the necessary investments on this issue. We've listened and we've made the necessary investments. $173 million for irregular migration, $74 million for the IRB, and we are investing in CBSA and so on. We're investing in faster processing of work permits. But let me quote the head of the UNHCR in Canada, the expert on this issue. Canada's borders remain secure. The Government of Canada has adapted to the increase with measures that reduce congestions at land points of...
Sorry, we've run out of time.
So I'm sure you were as frustrated as I was with that mess of terrible talking points about spending your money on this issue rather than no answer on how they were going to stop the flow. Few things. The minister today also talked about how he was expediting the work permits for all of these people. I think that it is a very bad message to send when we have high levels of unemployment across the country, that if you enter the country illegally, that you will have a work permit expedited for you. The other thing that he did was he talked about how they were setting up a task force, that the people that are illegally entering into the country in Quebec, that they would be working with the provincial government to ask these illegal immigrants where they are going to, where they want to live, where they're going, and then expedite their transfer across the country. So for all of you who, many of you are new Canadians yourself, you've contributed a lot to the economy, or you've come, for those of you who have come as humanitarian refugees and, you know, done a lot of work in the country, you're going to say, look, what about the people that we're trying to legally sponsor into the country? I have a case in my office right now. I mentioned it yesterday. 89-month wait for a privately sponsored refugee who wants to come from Eritrea, from Djibouti. That's crazy. So for those of you who are new Canadians, or for those of you who have applications that are pending to come to this country, what is being prioritized is people who are choosing to illegally enter the country and then circumvent the rules that we have in place. So the thing that I wanted to have the Liberals do is actually table some sort of a plan prior to the summer that shows that how they're going to stop this. I realize that, you know, they're probably not going to do this, but it's incumbent upon me as your shadow minister for opposition on this particular topic to force them to do this. I tried in our committee today to have the Citizenship and Immigration Committee do a quick study on this and have a report table to Parliament prior to the summer break, because there are things that I think we should explore. There's, you know, how do we close the loophole in the Safe Third Country Agreement? Can we do something like make the entire Canadian border a technical official point of entry so that the Safe Third Country Agreement can be applied at the Lacal crossing and in Manitoba as well? I mean, like, we have to start getting creative in terms of the legal framework that we already have in place, how we can enforce that more effectively, so that it's more about a solution of enforcing the rules that we already have in place, rather than throwing, this is now hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm guessing it's probably $1 billion when you look at all of the costs associated to people who are entering the country illegally. Again, just to reemphasize, 400 per day. That is not sustainable in any circumstance. So, you know, the minister's, all of that context for you, the minister had a really disastrous performance today. He's not doing his job. It's very clear. I will continue to hold the government to account. And, you know, the voices that you have on this saying, look, we're compassionate. We want to have a very compassionate asylum claim. For those of you, I've had many new Canadians call into my office and say, I came to Canada legally, and, you know, we salute you, but the people that you're trying to sponsor in, you know, they've got upwards of 7-year waits in some situations. So it's a real disincentive for those who are trying to enter Canada by playing by the rules. I'm on top of this issue, working hard for you in Ottawa. Have a great day.